Thank you for staying with us on Daybreak. Remember the hashtag is Citizen Daybreak. The X handles are at Obarrows at Citizen TV Kenya, and the SMS line is 22422. We will be sampling your feedback as we move along. I am joined in studio by Dr. Maloba Wekesa, Nairobi chapter of the University's Academic Staff Union, UASU. We have Dr. Charles Mukwaya, who is the Secretary General of KUSU, which is the Kenya University's Staff Union. And we also have a lawyer in studio, Dr. Eliud Situma, who is also an education expert. So we were on the question of court orders and who should be respecting which court orders. And I see here that where is this? That you have filed a case in court seeking citation of senior government officials for contempt of court and their imprisonment for non-adherence to court orders. And I'm referring to UASU in this case. So, Dr. Wekesa, is that the case?
Well, let me try and address this matter of court orders. And I'm glad you started by pointing at this rather bizarre situation. Who between the government and UASU should be the first to respect court orders? I want us to remember one thing. When you sign a collective bargaining agreement, it's actually an instrument of law. It is an instrument of law. Now, if the government is not able to follow that same instrument of law, how then can it purport to now reverse and then point the finger at the lecturers who are now the victims? They are not the agents, they are the victims. How can the government now point at them and say, look, we now have a court order here, run back and do A, B, C, D? This is not how any sort of justice works. And what lecturers are asking is within the boundaries of the law. We always need to inform the public about these matters so that they understand. And for me, I have always had a thesis about why public utilities continue being degraded over a spectrum in a country as ours. Whether it is medical services, there is always a target that let us erode this public service. Whether it is learning, whether it is in education, let us erode it. There is always an end game. And the end game, for me, I always see a political motive behind it, where private enterprise that is always fronted by the political elite is always at the forefront. The affront has started way below. In fact, these days, I don't think anyone bothers to take their children to kindergarten. That already went to hell, thanks to the very slow, easy campaign where those public utilities were degraded. And it has always gone up, and right now the scale is at the university. And that's why it is not surprising. The other day we saw a cabinet secretary graduating their own daughter somewhere outside the country. The same cabinet secretary who is supposed to be in charge of the monies which are supposed to come to the university is not bothered with this. Why? Because, like I said, it is a slow process of degrading a public utility so that private enterprise starts making moves into that sector. And we are saying you are not going to use the law to shield you from this slow-moving coup where these public utilities will continue being degraded.
Okay.
That's my thesis in the broadest view.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying let us not use the courts to shield the government from its responsibility.
All right. So, Dr. Mukwaya,
Yes, please.
What I'm hearing, your comrade say, and I see he's ready for the march.
Yes.
Yes.
What I'm hearing him say is let the government obey court orders first. Is that the position you hold?
Indeed, but you know, the constitution of this country envisages that all of us respect the rule of law, court orders included. But our constitution does not tell us that so-and-so will respect and this other gentleman shouldn't. It doesn't. It expects all of us. Now, even as the country is going through this current turmoil in the universities, and the government, through its agents, trying to order, lecturers to go back to work because it's a court order, it is actually the height of insincerity. The first court order, in fact, was a judgment. A CBA that has been duly signed by social partners and registered by a court of law is a court judgment. Now, when such a court judgment is disobeyed by these people who are now shouting loudest, go back to work, go back to class, who then is this person that is supposed to obey the court order and this other one is not supposed to obey? They ought to have obeyed, and that's why we've gone to court to challenge the orders that they obtained fraudulently. And we got directions.
Oh, you did?
Yes, we got directions yesterday. Yes. These guys must come to the court and explain how they got that particular order. Because when you go to court, you must go there with clean hands. You go to court seeking justice, and yet you have not told the court that actually, you, the court, you gave me this order, I have not implemented, I have not respected it. That bit was not told to the court when they were obtaining the order that are now flashing around. Secondly, there is something called non-disclosure of material fact. The lawyer is here. When you go to court, you must disclose the real facts. This matter has already been litigated those many years ago. Conciliation has been done by the Minister of Labor. The conciliation reports filed in the court. Parties signed the CBA. The court registered the CBA. So what is this when you are going to court this time around? What are you looking for? What do you want the court to do? That is something called res judicature, right? Yes. You want the court to litigate and litigate and litigate a matter over and over again. So the government is guilty on this particular instance. They are the ones, first of all, to obey what the court gave out then. Then they can come. So for us at the moment, we do not see anything that is there for conciliation. But as we said, because the courts are there to help, arbitrate and help settle disputes, in our view, there's no dispute here. There's no dispute here. That's why when the court is saying that, the employers are saying that they have a court order, they should go back and tell the court, did they share the information right? Correct.
Okay. All right. I'm reading here that WASU further accuses the government officials of failing to negotiate, conclude, register, and implement the 2025 to 2029 National CBA contrary to law, and the recognition agreement signed on October 28th, 2019 between the union and Consultative Forum. The union now wants Justice Radido to compel Mr. Gamba, Mr. Mbadi, Dr. Mutua, Professor Mugendi, Ms. Odur, Ms. Njoka, and Professor Barasa to personally appear in court on October the 6th to explain why they should not be jailed for 6 months for openly defying a court order, that the alleged contemners be punished for contempt of court by committal to civil jail for a period not exceeding 6 months, or to be directed to pay a fine of 200,000 shillings each in accordance with the law, WASU states in the suit papers. And in the suit, Interparties Universities Council's Consultative Forum has been named as the respondent, while the Ministry of Education, National Treasury, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, and Ministry of Labour are listed as interested parties. In his supporting affidavit, the WASU Secretary General, Dr. Constantine Wasonga, notes that the union is dissatisfied with the order of the Employment and Labour Relations Court, given that the Consultative Forum procured it through deliberate concealment of fact, and that is with regard or as concerns the declaration by Justice Radido terming the lecturers' strike illegal following Mr. Ogamba's announcement confirming the release of 2.73 billion shillings in pending salary arrears. So, Wakili, who would be jailed first? Or who would be fined this 200,000 6,000 shillings or so. Because there's a court order on one side, the lecturers are saying we have a judgment which supersedes a court order, which they say was issued without disclosure of material facts.
Yes. Very well. Number one, it is important just to put a disclaimer so that we are not accused of sub judice, especially when a matter is active in court. We might not get into the merits and demerits. But ideally, court orders, as I said at the beginning, they have to be complied with either party. There's no one who is above the law, whether it is the government, whether it's the other party. So where we are at, we are saying that, and I love what the Dawn says, that whoever seeks equity must come with clean hands. It implies you can't come to accuse the other party when yourself you're guilty. So in terms of who should blink the eye first, we go back to our Constitution of Kenya 2010. What does the Constitution provide? That our students who are in the university, who are in any other level, they have a right to education, as enshrined in Article 43, Article 53. All of them, they speak to the right to education. And to what extent can the court interfere with the limitation of these rights? Only to the extent where a limitation of those rights are justifiable, they are reasonable within an open democratic society. So given the circumstance, the question that we'll be asking ourselves, that are we out to look for quality education? Are we out to respect the rights of our students and the other stakeholders? Or are we going to play these games in court where we are looking at a win-lose situation? No, we cannot afford to do that. We cannot afford to use a court as a scapegoat just to ensure, to play supremacy battle. What is right that is supposed to be done? And sometimes I look at what the Dons are asking. I think they're asking for very little. Ideally, I'm very sure even the 2.73 billion that has been mentioned.
Right.
Look at the household where some of the Dons are coming from. When they pay this money, maybe someone will be going home with maybe about 6,000, 3,000. They're likely to disclose to us how much a Don is likely to carry home. Look at the inflation rate within our country. The figures, they tell us it's going down. But does it reflect to the household? No. So when we talk about a government, we are looking at a government that has three arms: the judiciary, the executive, and the legislature. So there is no way one arm of the government now will be there to limit the rights of others. So to the extent that any pronouncement, whether it's from the court, whether it's coming from the executive arm, is likely to mess with the lifeline of our youth, then we cannot go that route. What we need to have, a very candid discussion, knowing that we are looking at a system of education that really makes our country to move forward. We are looking at a system of education where even the Dons themselves, they are able to invest in terms of research and innovation. They are able to be catered for in terms of their sabbatical leaves. How is the government doing this? All they're asking is about money. I wish they can go ahead and say, for us to get really quality education, we need to invest more in innovation. The reason why we are having even the CBE currently, when we talk about the curriculum-based education, is because we need to have a society that is anchored on problem solving. Problem solving doesn't work where there's no innovation. There must be heavy investment if we have to get quality output from this education system. So we cannot just narrow down this discussion and looking at the win-lose kind of scenario, that the court has pronounced this, so we have to go back and do ABCD. We really have to have a very serious discussion about this. And maybe, yes, benchmark with the best practices globally. If you went to the US today, how much investment, how much are you going to invest in education? It's a lot.
Okay.
How much investment is done in other countries? It's a lot. So to that extent, any decision that is even made in court, it should be alive to the public policy, what we call the utilitarian principle, common good for the masses, not just for the lecturers alone,
okay,
but also remember there are students involved, also remember there are parents involved who are key stakeholders, that this burden needs to be shelled away from them because they've done their bit.
All right. Have there been attempts at negotiation, maybe negotiating a payment schedule? And I ask that because we were talking about the front page of the Daily Nation, the headline, A Nation in Crisis. If we look at the education sector alone, we have secondary schools that are yet to receive capitation. The head teachers are saying they've had to change some of their numbers because the debtors keep calling. When you look at, we had the parents, the crisis of the university bans, the cost of the courses. And now we have lecturers who are on strike. And then we have publishers who are saying, we are owed 3 billion shillings and the government needs to look at the transition from grade 9 to grade 10, which requires textbooks. You have junior secondary school teachers who are saying, no, we want to be autonomous and we don't want to be domiciled in primary schools. There's a lot happening. Has there been an attempt to get you to the negotiating table? Dr. Wekesa?
All right. First, whenever I appear in a public forum, I always am very reticent to try and obfuscate any matter as sensitive as this through legalese. That's why I want to break it down into the simple bits as I see it. Let me first try and remind Kenyans when this government was coming into power. What were some of the political promises that it came with? Among them were these things called charters. And you remember at that time they were quite, enthusiastic about how paradise will come for all the Kenyans. And there were a lot of delegations which used to go to the current president. And they used to sign these things called charters. Among them was one, an education charter. And these are political promises. Among these political promises was that, number one, there is no worker in Kenya who will actually come and then their CBA will be implemented in arrears. It will always be implemented in time. In fact, there was this rosy picture that somehow there is going to be a turnaround in the fortunes of Kenyans in the manner they were running things all the way from education to the health sector to everywhere. And that's why probably people voted for this government. Now, fast forward to what is currently happening. What you have mentioned is actually a slew of items which seem to be going aground, from whether it's high schools, from whether it's the medical profession, from whether it's the education sector. Things seem to be grounding to a halt. So behind this facade where people stand up and clap at a political leader about how well things are happening, the truth of the matter is, when you go to the ground, nothing seems to be working. Whether it's about the funding process, whether it's about the CBS which were promised. Now we are going into a coercive effect to start telling people, go back to class, as if that is actually going to enable a clean process where people like the lecturers will accede to it and then do as you wish. This is actually wrong. The bottom line is this. Situations which are as complex as education do not need sloganeering. And I've always insisted, get the best experts into these positions so that they can give you good advice. Moving forward, how do we entangle a situation as the one that we currently find ourselves, where CBS are apparently not being honored, but somehow the political class is having a surplus every weekend. You've been seeing these things called empowerment programs, isn't it? There's a surplus of financing towards such kind of engagement so that it is a spectacle. Politicians are always dancing in podiums. Choppers are landing. Delegations are flooding into State House with monies which no one has ever seen in the budget. And this is being clapped by. Everyone is happy when they are going to State House. Churches are being built. People are buying, I don't know, these days they don't buy wheelbarrows anymore or what? I'm not sure.
They're giving out boda boda.
Yes. Sewing machines.
Yes.
I don't know. All this. And then they are parading. We've seen boda boda in State House. People are being given for free. Every other time you hear, we want this number of people in this constituency to come and be trained. We want this number of people to come. We will give them this number, this amount of money. You will access all these things. I want you to ameliorate all this and tell me, where do you see it in the budget? You don't see it. And then when legitimate requests that are emanating from that budget are now demanded for, someone is saying, go back to class. There is something wrong that is happening in Kenya. We need to get a grip of ourselves. For us, as lecturers, we are saying one thing. This is the centerpiece where experts are. We are the experts. We can inform this government. If it wants a logical process by which money is disbursed through the exchequer and how the statutes of the Constitution provides it, come on, come to the university, you will see it. Whenever you want a problem, and you want that complex problem to be sorted out in a manner that is even long-term, come to the university. And it's the university lecturers right now who are on strike. Why do you think the government is running away from a logical process of engagement? Because it knows very well that this is not a group of individuals that will spectacle you. No. Far be it from lecturers even to get themselves into a situation like this. Let's ask the political class very simple questions. What is your long-term plan? Every other time, whenever you are actually offering short-term solutions for problems that are lingering, we are asking for a very small portion of what is actually entitled to us through the Constitution by something called the STI Act. If we actually have to enact it in full, 2% of this GDP in Kenya is supposed to be allocated to the universities and research institutions. 2%. We are not even asking for that. What we are asking for is just enough to be able to have some dignity in reporting to our workplaces. Enough for us to be able to offer the much quality education currently even depreciated to the children of this country. Enough to be able to support us so that we can be competitive on a global stage in producing the knowledge economy that we saw every other time crave without any investment to it. I always go back to the scenario where I ask myself, how is it that we ended up in a situation where the political class took over even the establishment of universities? Simple. Because politicians have always thought universities are these sort of arenas which will suddenly become their employment bureaus. It's not about establishing a charter. For them, it's establishing a center where, number one, I will employ my relatives. Number two, I'll be able to get their tenders. Number three, the very fact that I'll use it as leverage in another electoral process. We are getting it wrong every other time. This time round, we are telling the government a simple thing. Live up to your promise. Okay. Governments can come and go. And I want to tell Amigos Ogamba, right now, probably going to 1 year into office, and I can assure him, within the next coming 24 months, watch out. I don't think you might be in that job. But guess what? Lecturers are going to be in those jobs, and they have been in those jobs now some 40 years in those jobs. For you, you only have 24 months.
Okay.
At most. So do the best you can while you are there. Build a rapport with the people you're going to meet later.
Okay, just one quick second. Dr. Mukwaya, let me ask you this. There's something Dr. Wekesa, he said governments come and governments go. We've been hearing about universities, public universities being in debt, some of them insolvent, and these are issues that preceded this administration. So, I mean, would you be willing to, give some leeway on the 7.9, given the slew of issues I listed that are plaguing the education sector?
Thank you, Olive. First of all, may I just go back to what you had earlier asked on whether there's any move, that has been brought to us to try and come up with some payment plan or something like that. Nothing like that has happened. And it's unfortunate that that hasn't happened, and yet we as workers' representatives are more than willing to engage in dialogue, to engage in constructive negotiations, to an extent that even when we negotiate these CBAs, we do accept at some point that pay this, whatever you have right now, and we agree that the remaining balance, go and ensure that you pay it like this within this period of time. We are that good. And so the current scenario here, we agreed on how this thing is supposed to be paid. So even if they were to come back and tell us whatever plans that they have, they'll be reopening what the courts have already given an order on. Because once the court has made a judgment, has registered that CBA, it's a judgment. So how do these partners now again go sit somewhere and defy what the court has said? Are you seeing that? Yes. But as it is said, we are ready to engage. They have taken us for conciliation. We are going to go there. We are going to go there and actually share the facts, what is required to be done. And it's a very simple thing. Just pay. Obey the court order. Obey that judgment that was made 8 or so years ago.
What if they tell you the money is simply not there?
I'm coming to that.
At this time.
I'm coming to that. When the government says that, it comes back to what my comrade is saying. The government cannot tell us it doesn't have money, first of all. The government has a lot of money. Kenyans are paying taxes higher than they have ever paid before. And we can see what is happening in this country. Who is not seeing? Money is being thrown left, right, and center, unbudgeted for money. This empowerment business, these delegations that visit State House and are being given money, that tells you that our priorities are the ones that are upside down. So the government must look at what is the correct and the right thing to be done first before it tells us there is no money. If there is no money, then it is them to go and tell the court, this is the court, what you say it needs to be paid, but now we are saying we don't have money. We would wish to request that you allow us to pay like this. That is their own funeral to do that, for them to do that. Us, we are abiding, law-abiding citizens, will go by what we were promised. Now, the issue of talking about
issues that have plagued public universities.
Yes, public universities, yes. These are issues that have been there even before this current government. The rain started beating these universities way back around 2016, coming into 2017, 2018. How? It is the very government. When I talk of the government, the government is government, whether the current or the previous, is government of Kenya. It is the government that started reducing drastically capitation meant to come to universities. Universities would prepare their budgetary estimates according to the what we call the wage guidelines and so on and so forth. What the wage guidelines indicate, you prepare the public service, you prepare your budgetary estimates and submit them to the government. The government will oblige to do what? To give you what you owe or what you require. But the government started by reducing these universities' budgets every day. The second thing the same government did, it did away with those parallel degree programs that used to help universities mitigate their financial deficits. You never used to hear this kind of financial constraints during the time when the parallel degree programs were running, because the universities were able to get money and be able to, defray some of the deficiencies that they were having from their own budgets. So the government here is to blame, first and foremost. You reduce the capitations, you're not offering a solution, okay? Even when these institutions then decide that we can come up with our own income-generating activities, for example, set up a teaching, research, and referral hospitals. It's an example. Do that. If you do that, the same government will come and actually claim that particular hospital. Take it. Say, oh, this is a state corporation, and so on and so forth. So that now you are not actually making good use of that facility that you have developed. A good example is Kenyatta University, right? So it is the government that actually causing this mess in these institutions. It could perhaps be doing that because there's a good reason. But what are the effects and the impact on the ground when you do that? Is the students, in our case as universities, who are suffering. It is the parents who are suffering because they have denied themselves a lot to ensure that these boys and girls are in the lecture rooms to be taught, right? But the government of the day is like is moving in the opposite direction to counter what these poor parents are doing. And there's nothing as bad as this, to have a lecturer, to have a teacher going before a classroom to teach when he or she is hungry. He doesn't know how his own children are going to go to school. He doesn't know whether they'll have a meal on the table the next day. That kind of instructor, that lecturer, that teacher will not teach your child.
Okay.
Because mentally, he is not all right. And that's what we're saying. It's very, very key. If this government is serious about education in this country, then it must play its part. They come up with funding model that again throws everything in turmoil. People are complaining and so on and so forth. There's nothing clear. Even as much as they're saying, yes, this is student-centered funding model, that money will follow the students. That means if you are able to attract more students, perhaps, then your university may get more money. If your university is not able to attract students, we have 42 universities in this country. Not all of them may be able to attract as many students as you would wish them to. Meaning what? Meaning that perhaps then you are going to close down some of those universities because they will not be able to get funding.
When you say 42, you mean the public?
Public universities, 42 of them. Number.
And those are the 42 which are impacted by the strike?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And my producer, anaitwa Lodrick Mayabi,
yes,
anauliza, what difference will this 7.9 billion make in terms of real salary, bottom line?
Okay. Before I actually answer that, let me just try and argument something my colleague has just been saying. You asked, is it possible the government can say it doesn't have any money? That is a straight indictment to any government to say that. If a government says it doesn't have money, it should resign and go away. We will get another government which will provide us with everything that we are seeking for. That's number one, because education is one of the tenets which are actually engraved in this constitution, in our current constitution. But then again, the very fact that you talk about money, money must be understood in this manner. Government money is about lobbying and then allocating these funds into specific pockets to drive development. The idea that first universities should be the ones to generate their own funds to support their own payrolls is a fallacious argument that has always dominated the narrative around how universities should be funded. That is wrong. There is no other sector. I have never seen anyone saying MPs should generate their own money so that they support their payrolls, or judges should do that, or the military, or policemen, anywhere. Nothing ever happens. But then on podiums, you will always see that simple narrative. And I'm saying you cannot make a complex situation go away through sloganeering. Because I see a lot of people standing and saying, universities should generate money. They can do that. Well, there is another downside. We are always getting kneecapped. In as much as that is not a feasible idea, we always get kneecapped. Just the other day, I actually saw a principal secretary say that we have now reduced the fees for the university, I don't know, from this amount to this amount. And let me give you a situation, for instance, in a medical school. If someone says, we have reduced the fees here, it's a very populist agenda. I'm sure there is no one who will be in any audience who will not clap. Right now in Kenya, even if you said you are reducing the price of air, people will clap. All right? But here are the realities. In medical school, when you say you are reducing, you have to ask yourself, these people are still using power. Have you reduced the cost of power? They are going to be still paid the same amount, in fact, even more, those lab assistants. Have you actually made sure that you are financing that? The reagents they are going to be using in the laboratories, they are still going to cost the same, in fact, even more. Have you reduced that? The water they are actually using in those laboratories, have you reduced it? Then, obviously, it is something which will be clapped for. And you can see we actually sweep it under the carpet. And the person who is saying so, after saying so, ducks away. And after that responsibility is now shunted back to the university, which must also what? Generate its own funds. And at the same time, it must support itself. And at the same time, all the employees who are not being paid should now simply forget about whatever promises the government has done. This is the kind of oxymoron arguments that that really eats to us. But now back to your point. You are saying 7.9 billion. How will it change the fortunes? Again, this is a very bad argument. For me, I actually feel very insulted when someone who owes you money, now 8 years down the line, is telling you, will you change your fortunes if I paid you money which I owed you 8 years ago? Who are you to even envisage a situation why we should even answer to that kind of question? And I think it's very demeaning. Whatever that lecturers are demanding for is actually a CBA that has expired. 7.9 billion is simply a debt. Opportunity cost cannot even be valued. If I think about it, some of our professors have even retired. They have even gone out of service. Some of them, we have actually lost them. They never earned this money. And right now, the government, doesn't matter how and which circumstance we find ourselves in, I have always insisted, the current president was a deputy president before. So all this is not news. And in fact, he sits in the budget committee, isn't it? There is a budget allocation committee, I'm forgetting the name of that, where the deputy president is actually the chair. So he's aware. Even the attorney general, when the ruling, when they were writing about how on 25th and saying, please, let's end this by simply paying our lecturers what is due for them. The Attorney General told the government, please, go ahead and include this money. That 7.9 you're talking about.
Yeah. So the question,
it was included in the budget. The
question is, how will it reflect on the payslip? Are we talking about 1,000, 2,000? How many lecturers are we talking, real number terms?
No. But Olive, you're getting this wrong. This is money that was owed before, okay? And let me just try and make it as simple as possible. The problem was, it took 36 months for the government first to sign the CBA, meaning that we were owed 36 months before. Now, here is where the problem became worse. When we said, now implement that CBA 2017-2021, before that 36 months. Before then, the money came. Remember, there was COVID, there was all this stuff, okay? The government said, we are going to implement this, but you have to forfeit something called yearly increment. That means they were implementing it horizontally. I want Kenyans to understand this. A yearly increment is an ingredient that is baked into any salary review. That yearly increment is supposed to cushion you from the cost of living index and inflation. So when a government says, we are giving you this CBA, but minus a yearly increment, that is wrong. That is why we went to court again. And you see, the judge at that point in time, the judge said, forget all these ideas you are saying. Pay these people first and then come and litigate. And good as we are in law, abiding the law, we said, fine, we went back. In a place like the University of Nairobi, it took us 52 months for the government to agree and say, okay, we can include your yearly increment. But then they say, let us just pay what currently obtains. Whatever the amount you are asking for those 52 months, we will sort you out later. Before we could breathe, they were back in court. And that is why when they ran to the appeals court, they did not have any argument. They simply ran the clock. Now we are saying that bill, which is 7.9 billion, all you have to do is to pay up. It's not about how much is going to be increased. No, we are right now in a different cycle. And the cycle that we are talking about is already expired, 2021, 2025. What we are seeking is, come to the table. Remember, this is the government which said, we will always never implement this CBS in arrears. So what did we do? Last year, we signed immediately. And we said, you know what? This government is the one which wants to implement this thing as quickly as possible. Let us sign, swallow our pride. And we were really scolded by our own colleagues. But we told them, listen, 2025, 2029, things are going to be okay because this is the government which said it will do it. We gave the ministry our proposal. January. Right now, 8 months down the line, nothing has happened. Instead, there have been 2 letters. One that came from IPUCCF, purporting to do something. You see, as usual, there is this perfunctory activity that happens in government. They want to seem like they are doing something when absolutely nothing is happening. So we received a letter inviting the union to a negotiating committee. Then we told them, what is the agenda? Number one, they don't have an agenda. Number two, they have not done their homework. Homework means they have gone to SRC and gotten things called beacons of negotiation. Nothing of the sort has happened. They also don't have an agenda. What they simply wanted was our presence in that meeting. Then they can run to court and say, oh, we are already talking to these people. So it is their fault. 8 months, no communication. Here is the other converse about it. SRC itself pronounced itself about the 7.9. Now, here's the other problem. SRC says, you know what? This money, we have just, because I think they only got their commissioners the other day. So even the commissioners are running around trying to find out. So how is this owed? I want you to remember one thing. Lecturers have all the records, all the receipts. All they are asking for is, can the government get its act together? This 7.9 must be paid. We are saying we had 3 demands. I would actually have wanted to come to look at the subsidiary issues which are actually also aggravating our colleagues inside University of Nairobi, because that is where myself and Dr. Charles Mkhwaya here
we'll get to University of Nairobi. But speaking of, and we'll get some feedback in not too long, the higher education sector, right? So I talked about the debt that we've been told is plaguing universities. Task force was formed, recommendations were made. These bans for the courses came in, they were challenged in court. Because the government was arguing that not everybody's economic status is the same. So those who are vulnerable will be sponsored or loaned monies to cater for their education. Because the argument was that students now are too many for government to continue subsidizing for all of them at the same level. So what is the way forward now?
All right. Thank you, Olive. I'll keep referring to our Constitution, and I want to refer to our preamble. The preamble of the Constitution is very clear. It says that we adopt this Constitution for ourselves and for future generations. What does this imply? This implies that we are in a state where we need to be very selfless, not selfish. Look at our universities currently. What is happening in terms of debt? Most universities, they have historical debts. They owe KRA. I'm aware some of the universities, they pay 15th of the other month because the KRA has taken hold of the funds in their accounts, and that's a fact. When I talk about us being selfless, history would really judge us harshly if we don't find a solution. And the solution is not about just asking for money, maybe don't asking for the money to be paid alone, or the government trying to push on their side. There are other voices that we need to speak for. We want to speak about the students down there. We want to talk about the parents and just find a long-lasting solution. And I beg to differ with Don here about saying that universities should not generate revenues. I think it's a high time we need to have a very candid discussion. Why do we have private universities that are stable? Why do we have some corporates that are working well? Is there something that we can borrow from them as a model? Sometimes I feel we don't need to go very far to benchmark and get this right in terms of managing debt. There are many revenue streams work around our universities. I think the problem is our top leadership within the universities also. Despite the fact that the government has a responsibility, is it possible that we have a discussion where the universities are semi-autonomous, not really being micromanaged by the central government, where the top leadership of universities are given an opportunity to look at the revenue streams within to complement what the government is offering? That's what I think from an education expert point of view. Number two, look at the students. How are they being affected by this debt? Right now, one of the major crises that we have around the world is mental health. Most of these students coming from different parts of this country, they came to the university as a safe space. Some of them come from very marginalized areas. The first week they come to the university, they have been abandoned. They are there in the hostels. They even don't know what to do next because...
I saw Victor Sigei in one of our reports selling eggs in Bomet to keep busy.
Yes. Those are the things that are on the ground. So we need to be very selfless when we are having a way forward about this. And the discussion should be that we don't have to follow the same script year in and year out. They are the leaders of WASU. Just the way the government will come and go, other leaders will come. But we want to continue with the same script, saying, please pay us this amount of money. However much that is really necessary, and I totally support that the lecturers need to be paid, but can we look at other revenue streams? We want to have universities that have a business continuity plan so that in the unlikely event that we have a government that fails to support this kind of quality education system, we should not expose our learners to the same predicament because we are leaders in our own rights. We have an ability to make a difference in this society. And the only difference we can make is to look at what are other ways of really complementing each other so that at the end of the day, we are reducing the level of the mental health effects that really happen when now the students can't even concentrate in class. Look at even this, the ratio of students, teacher in the universities right now. Yes, we might be celebrating saying we have 42 public universities. Is it really necessary if they can't employ enough lecturers so that we reduce the ratio, so that we have a quality kind of output from our universities? No, we cannot do that. And I think even the cabinet secretaries for education and the presidency, they're also living a lie. Why do I say that? It's because when they know that within the exchequer they might not be having enough resources, why can't they have a discussion, a candid discussion, and say, you know what, this is what we've acquired from the taxes, and can we now have a balance of this so that we don't have this blame game year in and year out? And it might never stop unless we sit here and look at each other in the eye and say, we have to put a stop to this, and we need to find a way forward.
All right.
So before I finish, is that we have to look at this thing wholesomely,
okay,
not narrowly. Yes.
All right. So let's quickly take a look at some feedback. Because of time, I'll give you last remarks. Let's see. This is Lekishon Laban, who says, from lecturer MOA standoff to fee payment model confusion and help disbursement failures, it's students who suffer and their rights are violated. It trickles down to extended studies and delayed graduations. Government must treat education seriously and sort the mess now. Then we have Babu Michael, who says, just like in the health sector, where most government officials don't seek treatment in public hospitals, they also send their children to private or foreign universities. That's why they don't seem to care whether public institutions are collapsing. Then this is Frank Corinda, who says higher education is at a crossroads. Underfunded universities demoralize lecturers and students burdened with uncertainty. The promise of knowledge as a gateway to opportunities is fading into frustration. We risk producing a generation of disillusioned graduates. And Babu Michael says from the controversial university, from the controversial university funding to the ongoing lecturers strike, higher education in Kenya has become a nightmare, especially for students. This is simply a matter of misplaced priorities. The KK government isn't serious about this issue. Do we have another one? Okay, Engineer Lazaro, the big question is, are we really looking for ways to improve the quality of our education, or are we stuck in a supremacy battle among institutions? The education sector is sinking into a serious crisis while giant unions remain locked in tough wars. And the last one, Okello Mwalimu, the government must be cautious in handling the ongoing lecturer strike. The Ministry of Education should understand that today's trade unionists thrive on threats, real or empty, and such tactics only harden lecturers' resolve. University students deserve a speedy resolution. All right, last words, if possible, in a minute each. Sorry.
Thank you, Olive. Fine. Our universities, this is to the government and the university councils. The perennial problem that causes these institutions to be in this kind of scenario that we find ourselves in is delayed negotiations of CBAs. You negotiate a CBA when its life cycle passed long time ago. So that then at the end of the day, when you finally negotiate it, then there is accumulated arrears, which the same government will now look at it and say, this is a lot of money. But had the parties negotiated at the right time, that amount of money would not be anything to worry anybody. Number two, it would also allow then the government to budget for these monies. And so we are talking about monies that have been owed and they're still being owed and they need to be paid because it's a right to these institutions. The second one, the government has the central role to play in this matter. Take education seriously. We promised ourselves tutafukuza ujinga at the height of, independence. How do we fukuza ujinga when the government is not ready to fund education? So the current crisis is simple, very simple. Let the government play its role and ensure that money is actually wired to the universities. Last but not least, we just need to have a very, very candid discussion over these education sector issues as stakeholders. Let us not hide our heads under the sand. There is a problem. We must accept it. And as we do that, the government needs to do one thing also, to accept that its priorities are currently upside down. If we get it right, we will not be having this kind of problems year in, year out. Thank you.
All right. Dr. Wekesa?
Thank you very much. Now, I want only to...
And quickly, how many thousands are affected?
In terms of...
that have not received the 7.9?
About, more than 30,000.
30,000. Okay.
Yes.
Can go ahead.
Workers.
Yes, I only want to clarify one thing which Wakili had said here about universities generating funds. My grouse is simple. Payrolls should be shouldered by the government. That is my take. The payroll system should be shouldered by the government. By all means, there is no university in the world that does not generate its funds. I only want to make it clear. But it generates its funds for its own internal systems. Things like handling research. Research is extremely expensive. Conferencing, it's extremely expensive. Books, they are so expensive. We generate internal funds for those sort of things. What we are saying is the government, when it says this is a public university, finance the payroll from the public coffers. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Now, back to what...
We are in extra time.
Yes.
So I'll give you 30 seconds.
There are two things which I wanted to call. A rallying, two items. A rallying call first to all the WASU members. I want all the WASU members to listen to me. Stand your ground. Remain steadfast. Today we are having a mega demo here in Nairobi, starting from the University of Nairobi grounds, and we are going to make a symbolic walk right through from University Way, through Uhuru, which means freedom, okay, Uhuru Highway. Then we will cross on to Parliament, where they make laws. We'll submit a petition. We will then move to Harambee Avenue, where we will now go to the Ministry of Education and the Office of the President, where we'll also submit. And this is symbolic because we want this to be resolved. Number two, all WASU members, please, only listen to your union. There's a lot of misinformation going around. Do not listen to anyone. Listen only to your leaders. And the second thing is a rallying call to the government. Number one, government and all its functionaries, please pay lecturers what is due for them. Stop making lecturers beggars. We are not going to live in penury, and we are not asking for anything outside of what is legally mandated to us. And number two, government, please treat education as a priority in your development agenda. Do not play the political games you usually try to play in. Thank you very much.
All right. So, Wakili, your last word?
Yeah, thank you, Olive. At Trindap Consulting firm, one of the things that we've been working on is to ensure that we have a working education ecosystem where all these parties are interconnected to produce quality graduates and quality education. My final word will be that as whatever we do, whatever wars that we go through, let us remember that our ultimate goal is to ensure we have quality education that is characterized by graduates who are relevant to the industry. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this morning. I know there's a lot to unpack, but we've tried our best in the time available. We've had in studio Dr. Maloba Wekesa, WASU Nairobi chapter, Dr. Charles Mukwaya, Secretary General KUSU, Dr. Eliud Situma, lawyer and education expert. I see Safin Achieng waiting in the wings, but Safin, before I make way for you, French President Emmanuel Macron called his U.S. counterpart, Donald Trump, from the streets of New York on Monday after he and his entourage were stopped from crossing a route being kept clear for Trump's motorcade. Footage shot by French broadcaster BFM TV showed Macron speaking to a police officer who apologetically said he could not allow the French presidential team to cross because of a coming motorcade. Those images on your screen. I've been your host, Olive Burrows, and thank you for tuning in to Daybreak.
How are you? Guess what? I'm waiting the street because everything is frozen for you.
My name's Holly. This is like one good thing you gotta go. So
I don't know, it's still 3 or 4 in the afternoon. But I would love if we can. Yeah, I know, I would follow. But you know, after I would love if we can have a shot.